I was 16 the summer my mom decided we'd spend a weekend with Grandma up at her place near Pine Ridge, a small, wooded area somewhere deep in the northern stretch of New Hampshire. She lived alone on a private 10-acre property tucked along an unpaved road, the kind you wouldn't find unless you were looking for it. No nearby neighbors, no cell reception, and only one way in or out. It wasn't exactly a vacation, but it was the closest thing we ever got to one. My parents had been planning a rare weekend trip just for the two of them. Something about rekindling romance, I think. Since they didn't trust me and my younger brothers, Eli, 13, and Noah, 10, to stay home alone, they decided the next best thing was to send us to Grandma's. She had electricity, a landline, a small pond out back, and enough squirrels to keep my brothers entertained for hours. Her house wasn't fancy, just a wide ranch-style home with vinyl siding, 2 bedrooms, and a red Morton building out back she used as storage for gardening tools and old furniture. Grandma Loretta was in her 80s but still moved like a woman 20 years younger. She was sharp, blunt, and a little paranoid, always checking locks and muttering things like, "Too many drifters on back roads these days." Her late husband, my Grandpa Henry, built the place himself in the early 70s, and she never left it after he died. On the Friday we arrived, the air smelled like pine and dry earth. It had rained the night before, and the woods surrounding the house buzzed with life. Crickets, frogs, the rustle of wind through trees. After dropping our duffel bags in the spare room, we ran around the yard playing tag until we got sweaty and went inside for sweet tea and ham sandwiches. The evening was calm. We played basketball on the half-court Grandpa had put in decades ago. The backboard leaned a little now, but it was solid enough to shoot hoops till the sun dipped behind the treetops. I remember how orange the sky looked that night, like it had been dusted with copper. One of those oddly peaceful moments you don't know you're going to remember until long after it's gone. At dinner, Grandma made chicken pot pie and peach cobbler. Noah went for seconds before anyone else had even touched their food. "You're gonna eat me out of house and home, boy," Grandma said, nudging his plate with a grin. "I'm growing," Noah replied with a full mouth. We laughed. Everything was normal. After dinner, I went upstairs to the loft where Grandma kept an old TV and our favorite GameCube. Eli followed me. We played Super Smash Brothers for maybe an hour when Grandma called up to me. "Wyatt, come down here a second." I thought maybe she needed help locking up or forgot where she put her glasses again. Instead, she met me at the bottom of the stairs, pointing out the dining room window with a strange look on her face. "You boys left the Morton door open," she said. My eyebrows pulled together. "We didn't even go in there." "Well, the light's on and the door's wide open. Go look." I stepped to the window. Sure enough, the side door to the Morton building was unlatched, swaying just slightly in the breeze. The bulb above it buzzed, casting a weak yellow cone of light. "Noah," I called upstairs. "You go in the Morton today?" "No," he called back. I looked at Grandma. "You sure you didn't open it?" "Of course I'm sure. Why would I?" A cold twist crept into my chest. "You think someone broke in?" She looked nervous now, her hand fluttering to her throat. "I hope not." "I'll go check it," I said, heading for the front door. "Wait," she snapped. "Don't go out there alone." "I'll just yell if anyone's inside." "No, Wyatt, don't." She stepped between me and the door, tugging my wrist. Her eyes were wide and shiny now, reflecting the porch light. "Please don't." Her reaction threw me off. Grandma wasn't dramatic, she was practical. So her trembling voice struck a nerve in me. Okay, I said slowly. "We'll call the cops." She nodded, reaching for the landline while I kept watch from the window. The Morton building looked like any other shed, but suddenly it felt menacing. As Grandma shakily explained the situation to the dispatcher, I spotted something, or rather someone, just outside the porch steps. A man, just standing there. No sound, no movement, just standing. He wore a dark hoodie with the hood up, hands hanging at his sides. I couldn't see his face. It was too shadowed. I froze and instinctively whispered, "Holy shit." "What? What is it?" Grandma asked, her voice rising. "There's a guy, right at the porch steps, just standing." She dropped the phone, leaned over me, and gasped. "Oh my God. Oh my God." She yanked the phone back, voice frantic now. "He's here. He's standing at the porch. Please, someone—" My hands balled into fists. I should go out there. "No," she screamed, grabbing my arm. "Wyatt, don't you dare." "He's just standing there, Grandma. He's not even trying to break in. I don't care. He could be crazy or high or armed. You're not going out." She held on with all her strength, her fingers digging into my wrist. I gave in. We waited. It felt like forever. Then, without warning, the man turned and slowly walked around the side of the house, toward the back. "Crap. He's going around," I said, and we all darted through the house, looking through every back-facing window. We followed him with our eyes until we lost him. He vanished into the trees. By the time the sheriff arrived, a tall, weary-eyed man named Deputy Carver, we had nothing concrete to show him. "Didn't see his face?" Carver asked, making notes. "No," I admitted. "He stayed in the shadows." "Didn't try to get in?" "Not that we saw." He checked the Morton building. Nothing missing, nothing obviously disturbed. Just the door ajar. "Could have been passing through," he said. "Or just a vagrant hoping for shelter." "That's what scares me," Grandma said. "We'll patrol the area tonight, but chances are he's long gone." That didn't make us feel better. Carver left around 9:45 p.m. Grandma insisted she'd sleep downstairs in the den, close to the doors. "You boys stay up there," she said. "I'll keep the lights on." We didn't argue. Back upstairs, we tried to lose ourselves in the game cube. Noah kept asking, "What if he comes back?" And Eli shushed him. At 10:12 p.m., a scream ripped through the house. "Wyatt!" It was Grandma. We bolted downstairs, hearts in our throats. She stood near the den couch, pointing toward the small office next to it. "He's in there. I saw him." "What?" "I was laying down and I saw the door creak open and he walked in. I swear it." Without thinking, I rushed to the office and slammed the door shut. Eli and Noah ran up behind me and helped push a bookshelf against it. The house fell silent. Grandma dialed the cops again, hands shaking. When Deputy Carver returned, faster this time, he opened the office door with his gun drawn. There, lying calmly on the couch, was the same man. Same hoodie. Same stillness. He didn't resist. Just looked up and said, "Didn't want to be outside tonight. Too cold." He'd gotten in through the den window. It had been left unlocked. He never threatened us. Never shouted, just crept in. Carver cuffed him and took him into custody. We later found out he had no weapons, no ID, and no criminal record in the system. Just a name, Brandon Rooks, and a few minor priors for trespassing. Likely transient, maybe mentally ill. That didn't make it any easier to forget what happened. For weeks after, Grandma refused to sleep alone. She had deadbolts installed on every window, even the second-floor ones. My parents offered to have her move in with us, but she refused. Said if anyone tried that again, she'd be ready. I still think about that night. Not because of what happened, but because of what almost did. Because sometimes the real horror isn't violence or death. It's silence. It's a man standing at your porch, saying nothing, just waiting, watching, and knowing he got inside anyway. I never used to be the kind of person who looked over my shoulder. When I was 14, I still had this half-built confidence, the kind you get when your parents let you roam a little more freely for the first time. That summer, my best friend Leah's family invited me to spend a week with them in the Caribbean, in a resort town called Marizul Bay. It was one of those places that looked like a desktop background. Clear turquoise water, huge pink sunsets, and that humid air that made every photo look warm and perfect. Leah's mom, Carol, was the sort of woman who wore big sunglasses and gave off calm, moneyed energy. She booked us into this upscale oceanfront hotel called the Sapphire Dunes. 2 queen beds, balcony view, full itinerary. Massages, dinner cruises, snorkeling, that sort of thing. I still remember how it smelled, like sunscreen, rum, and salt. The hotel was beautiful. Open-air lobby with ceiling fans spinning slowly overhead, tiled floors that clicked under your sandals. and friendly staff who greeted everyone with a sing-song "Good afternoon" every time you passed. I felt older there. Not adult, but close. Our third day in, Leah and I signed up for henna tattoos. There was a little booth set up in the shaded courtyard next to the swim-up bar. A local woman named Nalia did the artwork, and she was good. Delicate patterns of flowers and vines that trailed down the backs of our hands. It felt like something from a dream. We were sitting on low stools, laughing about how it tickled a bit when the guy showed up. He didn't say anything, just stood a few feet away, sipping from a tall glass of orange something, sunglasses on, wearing a tank top and flip-flops. Maybe mid-30s. Tan, athletic in the way lifeguards are. He wasn't outright staring, but he wasn't not staring either. "Must be bored," Leah whispered. "Maybe he wants a tattoo," I joked, but my voice sounded off even to me. A little too light. Nalia must have noticed him too, because she said something to him in her island accent. He just smiled and walked off toward the pool deck. I didn't think about him again. Not really. Plenty of people passed by the tattoo stand. It wasn't weird. But I wish I had trusted my stomach more. We finished our tattoos around 4 p.m., and Carol told us to head back up to the room to get ready for dinner at the Italian place down by the beach. Leah wanted to grab something from the gift shop, so I said I'd head back alone and take a shower. There were 2 ways back to our room: outside, around the pool deck and up the back stairwell, or inside, past the row of little boutique stores and up the elevator near the lobby. The inside route was cooler, less crowded, so that's what I chose. I took my time walking past the stores. There were families still in wet swimsuits, sunburnt tourists browsing for t-shirts, and this tall man playing the steel drums in the corner. I stopped to watch him for a second before continuing to the elevator, and that's when I saw him, the same man from the tattoo booth. He was standing next to the elevator, leaning against the wall with his sunglasses now tucked into the neckline of his tank top. He looked casual, maybe too casual. I hesitated, but he didn't look at me, just stared down at his phone. I pressed the elevator button. It dinged, doors opened, and I got in. So did he. He stepped in just as the doors started to close. We were the only 2 people inside. I turned to press the button for the 6th floor. Our room was all the way at the end of the hallway up there. The moment I hit it, he gestured to the panel like, "Go ahead." But he didn't press anything for himself. That's when the feeling came back. That drop in your gut like missing a step. Why wouldn't he press a floor? I tried not to show anything on my face. I turned to the doors, pretended to be calm, but I could feel him behind me. Not close, but not far enough. The elevator stopped with a ding, and I stepped out, heart already in my throat. The hallway was quiet, empty and bathed in the soft pink light of the sunset streaming through the ocean-facing windows. I didn't run, but I walked fast. My flip-flops slapped the tile too loudly. I didn't look back, but I could hear his steps behind mine. Steady, unhurried, but too close. My room was 643, last one on the right. At 6:41, I broke into a jog. That's when I heard him speed up. 2 quick steps, and then a hand on my wrist. I screamed. Instinct, pure panic. I twisted my arm, kicked backward blindly, my henna-smudged hand flailing. I caught him in the shin, I think, or the knee. He cursed, stumbled, let go for a split second, and I ran. My hands were shaking so badly I almost missed the keycard slot. The green light blinked just in time. I slammed the door shut behind me and double-locked it. I stood there, breathing like I'd just sprinted a mile. Frozen. I didn't move until Leah came back 20 minutes later. Carol called hotel security. They came up, took a statement, wrote everything down. I was still shaking when I gave the description: height, age, tank top, glass in hand. The hotel staff acted fast. They checked the security footage, combed the lobby, and eventually found him, down at the beach bar watching another group of younger girls. They detained him, and we found out later that he wasn't a guest. He'd been sneaking in off the beach. The police were called. He had no ID on him, no room key. Turns out he'd been seen hanging around the hotel for 2 days. One of the boutique workers remembered him asking weird questions. He was taken away in handcuffs. They said he had done this before, not just here. Other resorts, other places. always targeting girls alone. We spent the rest of the trip mostly inside the room or with Carol glued to our side. I didn't go near the beach alone again. I barely slept. It wasn't a nightmare. It was just a guy. Just a hotel. Just a second of walking alone. I think about that trip every time someone says, "You're overreacting," because I wasn't. I reacted just in time, and I learned that the ocean isn't the only thing that looks beautiful while hiding something dangerous underneath. I never really liked mountain vacations. I'm more of a beach guy. Give me heat, give me waves, maybe a beer and a plastic chair in the sand. That's my speed. But my wife, Lena, she grew up around hills and evergreens. Her parents took her on camping trips every summer. Wood cabins, long hikes, fire pits, the whole nine. So when she found this hidden gem resort tucked in the pines about 4 hours north of us, I went along with it. A long weekend in the mountains. Just us. No phones, no work, no neighbors. It sounded nice in theory. We left on a Friday morning, driving Lena's beat-up Subaru through winding forest roads. The place was called Willow Pines Lodge, a rustic, family-owned resort that had been running since the 1960s. They had updated it here and there, modern plumbing, decent beds, but everything else kept that vintage charm. We saw photos online, cabins with wood-beamed ceilings, fireplaces, pine trees as far as the eye could see. What really sold Lena was their Couples Escape weekend package. They hosted it once every few months. Adults only, no kids, limited bookings. Lena read me the itinerary on the way up. Gourmet dinners, live music, fireside wine tastings, yoga at sunrise. I didn't say much. I didn't want to ruin her vibe. We got there around 2:30 p.m., the sun casting sharp lines through the branches. The parking lot was mostly empty, just a few other cars. The main lodge building looked like something out of a postcard. Wooden shutters, big double doors, a wraparound porch with old rocking chairs creaking in the wind. It was the kind of place that would be cozy in a snowstorm and creepy if you were there alone. The woman at the front desk, Marla, maybe mid-50s, welcomed us with a huge grin. She handed us a branded canvas tote with 2 stainless steel water bottles, a trail map, and a schedule for the weekend. "Y'all are in cabin 7, one of our best," she said proudly. "King bed, private deck, and you even got a little wood stove if you feel like making a fire. No one in cabin 6 right now either, so you've got some privacy." Lena loved that. Cabin 7 was a short walk down a gravel path lined with solar lanterns. Inside, it smelled like cedar and something faintly sweet, maybe pine cleaner. There was a giant bed draped in a flannel comforter, a kitchenette with a little stove, and a sliding door that opened to a small porch facing the woods. The bathroom was basic but clean. I set down our bags while Lena opened the windows to let in the breeze. "It's perfect," she said, wrapping her arms around me. I kissed her cheek. "Yeah, you picked good." That first night, we had dinner in the main hall with 6 other couples. The dining room was low-lit and warm. The windows steamed slightly from the cold air outside. A local guy played acoustic guitar near the fireplace while a few older staff bustled around, pouring wine and bringing out roast chicken and mashed potatoes. Everyone was friendly enough. Most of the couples were in their late 20s to mid-30s like us. One couple, Chase and Mia, sat next to us and chatted most of the night. They were from 2 towns over and had done the same weekend the year before. "It gets weird sometimes," Chase said after a couple glasses of wine. "Like, spooky weird." Lena perked up. "How do you mean?" "Just odd noises, shadows in the woods. There was this guy who swore someone knocked on his window in the middle of the night, but their cabin was facing the woods." Mia rolled her eyes. "He's just trying to creep people out." Chase laughed. "Nah, I'm serious. There's something about this place. It's too quiet." We all laughed it off. That's what people did at these places, told ghost stories to add some spice. Back at our cabin that night, the air had dropped fast. You could see your breath even indoors near the windows. Lena and I bundled up in bed, the wood stove crackling softly in the corner. We didn't bother locking the inner door to the adjoining room. There wasn't anyone next door, and honestly, we didn't even think about it. Sometime around 2 a.m., I woke up. There was this smell, not strong but sharp, almost chemical. like stale air mixed with something else, something rotting. It reminded me of a dead raccoon I found under our porch last winter. Lena stirred and made a face. Ugh, do you smell that? I nodded, already swinging my legs over the side of the bed. Maybe something got into the pipes. The smell seemed stronger near the door to the other room. I cracked it open and stepped into the dark, switching on the little lamp by the dresser. The room looked fine. Unused beds, dusty table, windows closed. But something didn't feel right. I checked under the bed, inside the closet, even pulled back the shower curtain in the tiny bathroom. Nothing. Still, that smell was worse in here. I opened the window to air it out, then went back to our room and closed the connecting door. Lena sprayed some lavender mist on her pillow and we tried to sleep again. I lay there for a long time, my eyes locked on the shadows shifting outside the curtain. The next morning, the smell was gone. We had coffee on the porch, watched some deer cross through the trees and went on a guided nature hike with 2 other couples and the resort's dog, Buck. He was a big old mutt that led the way like he owned the mountain. Everything seemed normal. That night, though, things changed. We had dinner again with Chase and Mia, followed by a short acoustic performance in the lodge basement. Afterward, Lena and I went back to the cabin a little tipsy, a little tired. Around midnight, we were brushing our teeth when we heard it. Thump, soft but deliberate, from the other room. I froze mid-brush. Did you hear that? Lena nodded, eyes wide. Maybe the wind? I walked to the connecting door and pressed my ear against it. Another thump, closer this time, like someone dropping a shoe. My heart started racing. Maybe something fell, I said, not believing it. I grabbed the little flashlight from my nightstand drawer and slowly opened the door. The room was dark except for the moonlight bleeding through the window. I stepped inside. It was cold, much colder than our side. I scanned the floor. Nothing out of place. No animals. No fallen lamp. I even checked the bathroom again. Everything looked exactly as it should. And then, as I turned to leave, my flashlight flicked over the corner. Something was there. Tall. Still. Just out of full view. A shape. Like a coat rack. Only there wasn't one in this room. I didn't even breathe. I just slowly backed out, shut the door, and turned the lock. I think someone's in there, I whispered to Lena. What? I saw something. Someone. In the fucking corner. She grabbed her phone to call the front desk, but we had no signal. Of course, the reception up here was trash. I grabbed my jacket, slipped on my boots, and told her not to open the door for anyone but me. I sprinted up to the main lodge. The front desk was empty, but there was a bell. I rang it twice. Then again, louder. A few seconds later, a man I hadn't seen before came from the kitchen area. Gruff, maybe late 60s, wearing a flannel and jeans. Something wrong? I told him everything, quietly but urgently. The smell, the sounds, the shape in the corner. His face changed. Cabin 7? He asked. I nodded. He disappeared for a moment and came back with a rifle slung over his shoulder. Show me. We walked back together. When we got to our cabin, Lena unlocked the door, pale as a ghost. The man motioned for me to stay back as he entered the other room. He was gone for maybe 30 seconds before he came back out. The other door's open, he said quietly. To the outside. Whoever it was is gone. That room had its own exit. A little side door we'd never used. Lena clutched my arm. Who was it? The man shook his head. Don't know. You're not the first ones to report this kind of thing, though. A few weeks back, we had some food go missing. Blankets, too. Someone's been sneaking in from the woods, living out here. He looked toward the trees. Might be someone local. Might be someone not right in the head. We didn't sleep that night. In the morning, they let us break our booking early and gave us a full refund. The man, his name was Rick, the owner's brother, walked us to our car. We'll be putting cameras up, he told us, and probably locking those connecting doors from now on. I didn't say much. As we drove away, I glanced in the rearview mirror at the trees. And just for a second, I swear, I saw someone standing at the edge, watching us leave. I had never been the kind of person who needed a big wedding. The courthouse was enough for me. One witness, a quick ceremony, a kiss. That was it. But my husband, Ryan, had this idea that we should do it right afterward, which in his mind meant a proper honeymoon. Just the two of us. No schedule, no obligations, no family drama. Just a week to relax and breathe after the stress of tying the knot. We chose El Capitan Resort and Spa, a 5-star hotel nestled just off the strip in Henderson, Nevada. Not as loud or flashy as the ones downtown, but still close enough to feel part of the chaos. It had a reputation for elegance and privacy, the kind of place celebrities stayed when they wanted to disappear. Ryan had found a discounted rate on a luxury honeymoon suite. Marble floors, king bed, balcony with a skyline view, and even a whirlpool bathtub. He was excited, practically giddy, when we pulled up in our rented Hyundai. I was just relieved we'd made it out of Phoenix without killing each other. We checked in just before sunset. The lobby smelled like citrus and eucalyptus, and soft jazz played over hidden speakers. A young woman with perfect teeth handed us our key cards and congratulated us with a little too much enthusiasm. I chalked it up to customer service training. Elevator up. Floor 9, room 943. The moment the door swung open, I felt it. Something was off. Ryan went straight for the curtains to look at the view. I stayed frozen in the doorway. A smell, stale, sour, and deeply wrong, hit me so hard I instinctively turned my head. It wasn't the usual hotel funk, not body odor, not mildew. This was heavier, almost like something rotting, but faint enough that you could tell someone had tried to mask it. "Do you smell that?" I asked. He was fiddling with the blinds. "Huh? Yeah, it's not great. Maybe the AC?" He walked over to the vent and sniffed. "Or the carpet. They probably just cleaned it or something." I said nothing, wheeling my suitcase into the corner and sitting on the edge of the bed. That's when I noticed it again, stronger. It came in waves, almost like it lived in the walls. I touched the nightstand. Sticky. The corners of the room had dust. A strange brownish stain trailed under the armchair. My gut clenched. Ryan threw himself on the bed like a teenager. "Come on, babe. It's not that bad. Give it a few minutes. We've been in the car for 6 hours. You're just sensitive." "I'm calling the front desk," I muttered, already dialing. The manager's voice was crisp and apologetic. "I'm so sorry about that, Mrs. Harper. Unfortunately, we are completely sold out due to the International Travel Tech Convention this week. However, I can personally send our housekeeping supervisor up to refresh the suite immediately. And while she does that, I'd love to offer you and your husband dinner on us. There's a fantastic steakhouse just across the courtyard." I accepted. It seemed like a reasonable offer. Dinner was good, better than expected. For a little while I forgot the weird smell and let Ryan distract me with wine and jokes and stories about his college roommate's disastrous wedding speech. We laughed, flirted, talked about what we'd do tomorrow. Red Rock Canyon, maybe the Hoover Dam. We were trying. But when we returned to the room, I didn't even have to open the door all the way to know it was still there. Ryan's smile faded. "What the hell?" We stepped inside and the smell was stronger. Sharper. Now with a metallic undertone, like rust or blood. He shut the door and looked at me. "Okay. That's disgusting. They didn't do a damn thing." I stared at the pristine white bed sheets, the fluffed pillows, the lemon-scented air freshener sprayed in a desperate haze near the vents. "I want to leave," I said quietly. Ryan paced. "They said everything's booked, remember? Let me call and raise hell. They'll have to find something." 10 minutes later, he hung up, clearly frustrated. "Nothing. Not one room in the city. He said even the low-end motels are full. They offered to clean it again." I sat down and pulled my knees to my chest. "It's not dirty, Ryan. It's wrong. Like it's coming from inside the walls." We opened every drawer, checked the fridge, looked under the bathroom sink. Nothing. But the smell was still there, clinging to the air like smoke. We left again, walked around the casino level, grabbed coffee, tried to push it out of our minds. I didn't want to admit how unsettled I felt, like something was watching us. When we returned to the room the second time, Ryan slammed the door behind us. "Number, that's it. I'm tearing this place apart. He started with the vents, stood on a chair and stuck his head inside. Then the minibar, then the closet. He pulled up the bathroom mats, even opened the toilet tank. I didn't want to help, but I couldn't sit still anymore. I peeled back the bedspread, then the top sheet. Everything looked clean, white and flat and boring. Then something caught my eye. A faint black smudge on the edge of the box spring, almost like soot. "Ryan," I called, my voice thin. He came over. "What is it?" "I don't know." I pulled the mattress with both hands. It was heavy, but it shifted just enough to expose the side of the box spring. And then, we saw it. A hand, pale, waxy, and swollen, wedged between the box spring and the frame, fingers curled like a dead spider. The wrist was bloated and dark, and the arm vanished into the wooden frame as if someone had shoved it there violently and then given up halfway through. I screamed. Ryan stumbled back. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then he grabbed my arm. "Call 911. Now." The next few hours were chaos. The hotel evacuated the entire floor. Police, detectives, EMTs, crime scene tape, cameras flashing. They found the rest of the body crushed inside the bed frame, wrapped in a stained blanket. A woman in her 30s. No ID. No missing persons match. The coroner said she'd likely been there for at least 5 days. The previous guests had complained about the smell, but no one investigated deeply, just assumed it was the drains. The mattress had muffled the worst of it. Housekeeping had changed the sheets multiple times, not realizing what they were making up the bed over. Ryan and I gave our statements. They moved us to another hotel that night, gave us a police escort. We didn't sleep, we didn't talk. We just laid on top of the covers in silence until the sun came up. I canceled the rest of the trip. We drove back to Arizona that afternoon. The hotel offered us a full refund and a lifetime free stay, like we'd ever go back. Weeks passed. They never found out who she was. No one claimed her. No news coverage. Just a quiet death, hidden under other people's vacations. Ryan and I never really recovered from it. Every hotel room we walk into now, we smell everything. We check under every bed, behind every curtain. He's quieter than he used to be. I wake up sometimes thinking I still smell her. They say your honeymoon is the start of everything, the beginning of your life together. For us, it was the first time we realized something real. Sometimes horror doesn't creep. It doesn't stalk. Sometimes it just waits, beneath a bed you've already laid on. I never thought our honeymoon would end with a police report and a blood-stained carpet. We'd been married for exactly 5 days. After the whirlwind of planning and a long-awaited wedding, we were finally in paradise. My wife Clara and I had booked a week-long stay on the island of Lanihi, a lesser-known but beautiful island in the Pacific, a perfect spot for those wanting to avoid the typical crowds of Oahu or Maui. It was quiet, lush, and serene. We stayed at a boutique resort nestled along the coastline, the kind of place with open-air hallways, personal hammocks on every balcony, and complimentary fresh juice every morning. It was our first real trip together, away from family, friends, and every normal routine we'd known as a couple. The first 3 days were magic. We slept in, ate too much local food, and watched the ocean turn orange at sunset. I remember thinking how lucky I was to be married to Clara, how she looked in the sunlight, the tiny freckles on her shoulder, the way she bit her lip when reading the map of nearby hikes. On the 4th day, everything changed. It started on the beach. That morning, we'd walked to a nearby public shore just 10 minutes from our hotel. The sand was hot, the water was warm, and the breeze was steady. We brought a small cooler with juice, fruit, and a couple of cold beers. I laid back while Clara walked down the shoreline to take some pictures for her Instagram. She came back smiling. "You look half dead," she teased, nudging me with her foot. "I'm in vacation mode. This is how I recharge," I said, eyes still closed. Clara laughed and tossed her towel next to mine. "I'm gonna use the bathroom, be right back." I cracked an eye open and gave a lazy thumbs up. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. I glanced toward the bathrooms, shaded behind a cluster of palm trees. I could see people milling about, a family with 3 kids, a guy doing yoga near a boulder. But no Clara. Just as I was about to get up and check, she reappeared, walking fast. Something was off. She knelt beside me and whispered. There was a man standing by the women's restroom. He was just staring. He didn't say anything, but he watched me walk in. And then when I came out, he stepped in front of the path like he wanted to block me. My entire body tensed. What? Are you okay? I'm fine. 2 other women came up behind me going in, and he sort of moved to the side. I just walked fast and didn't look back. I sat up, now fully awake. What did he look like? Clara turned to look back toward the bathrooms, but the man was gone. He was tall, white, I think, long hair, kind of messy, wearing a red shirt. I didn't want to stare long. We packed up right away and headed back toward the hotel. As we walked the beach path, we spotted a police officer on a bike patrol. Clara told him what happened, and he listened, took down some notes, then assured us he'd patrol the area again soon. We tried to shake it off. Maybe it was just some weirdo. Harmless. We were on our honeymoon. We weren't going to let a creep ruin it. That night, we dressed up for dinner. There was a seafood place called Salt and Coral about 2 blocks away, with views overlooking the ocean cliffs. Clara wore a green dress that fell off one shoulder, and I remember thinking she looked like a magazine cover. Over grilled snapper and mango cocktails, we even laughed about the bathroom encounter. Maybe he was just high, I said. Clara rolled her eyes. Still creepy, but yeah, maybe. We walked the streets after dinner, stopping at a night market to browse handmade jewelry and carved wooden turtles. Locals played music under string lights, and tourists danced barefoot in the sand. By the time we got back to our room 406, it was just past midnight. We took showers, dimmed the lights, and crawled into the big soft bed. I remember laying there thinking that the day ended far better than it began. Then came the knock. 3 gentle taps. Clara looked at me confused. Did you order room service? I shook my head. We weren't expecting anyone. I got up and walked to the door, keeping the chain latch on. I peeked through the peephole. A man stood outside in a maid's uniform. He wore a beige housekeeping outfit, complete with a name tag that read Ian. His hair was long, greasy. His face looked familiar. I cracked the door, but only a few inches. Can I help you? I asked. He didn't smile. I left something in your room earlier. Just need to grab it real quick. We didn't have any housekeeping today, I said firmly. We had the do not disturb sign out. He tilted his head. It'll just take a second. Behind me, Clara walked into view. And that's when she screamed. That's him! That's the man from the beach! I turned to look at her, stunned. What? The man suddenly shoved the door. The chain latch strained but held. His hand came through the crack, trying to unlatch it from inside. I slammed the door shut, undid the latch, and opened it fast to push him back. What the hell is your problem? I yelled. Then I saw it, his other hand reaching behind him. He pulled out a folding knife and lunged. He grabbed me by the throat and drove me backward into the hallway wall. I tried to yell, but his grip tightened. The blade came up and I ducked just in time, the knife slicing through the air beside my ear. Clara screamed again, but this time it was followed by a crack. She'd grabbed the lamp from the nightstand and smashed it over his head. The man let go of me, stumbled backward, then bolted down the hallway, bleeding. I gasped for air. Clara grabbed my arm, trembling. Call the police. Call now. The hotel turned into chaos. Guests spilled into the hallway in robes and pajamas. A woman began crying hysterically. Someone shouted that there was a man with a knife. Security showed up first, then the police. They took statements, interviewed everyone on our floor, and checked surveillance. The man had entered using a staff-only side door with a stolen badge. He wasn't a hotel employee. He'd somehow gotten the uniform, maybe stolen it from the laundry. They found his knife in a stairwell. He was gone. No one had gotten a clear shot of his face on camera, but when they showed us the hallway footage, Clara confirmed, "That's him." We didn't sleep that night. The hotel moved us to a different room, one with no balcony and reinforced locks. The police stayed in touch. 2 days later, they called with news. A man matching the description had been arrested trying to break into a different hotel near the marina. He had a duffel bag with multiple stolen uniforms, pepper spray, duct tape, and another knife. His name was Connor Wexley. He'd been arrested before, for stalking. The rest of our honeymoon passed like a blur. We didn't go to the beach again, didn't walk around after sunset. We mostly stayed in the hotel, watching local news, wondering what would have happened if Clara hadn't recognized him, if the chain latch had failed, if the lamp hadn't been within reach. Sometimes Clara wakes up in the middle of the night gasping. Other times I find myself double-checking locks before bed. We still have the wedding photos hanging in our living room, right above the fireplace. But we don't talk about the honeymoon much. Not because we want to forget, but because we almost never came back. I never liked driving at night, especially with my family in the car. But money was tight and every dollar saved counted. We were on day 2 of our road trip from Edison, New Jersey to Orlando, Florida. My wife, Marissa, our son, Josh, who had just turned 11, our daughter, Emma, 6, and me, Dylan. The plan was to do the trip in 2 parts, stopping overnight halfway through. But after shelling out more than expected on food and gas the first day, I figured we'd just push through and make it to Florida by morning. That would save us a hotel bill and get the kids to Disney a day earlier. It was around 10:50 p.m. when we crossed into Georgia. We had just passed the Welcome Center, and the kids were finally asleep in the back. Marissa was nodding off in the passenger seat with her hoodie pulled over her head. The hum of the road was the only sound keeping me company. The highway was quiet, so quiet it was almost eerie. No cars ahead, none behind. Just long stretches of darkness broken by the rhythm of the occasional green sign or reflective marker. We were maybe 40 minutes from the Florida border when I saw it. 2 flashing red lights, low to the ground. Not the kind that sit on a police cruiser. These were smaller, like roadside flares or SOS beacons. I instinctively took my foot off the gas. As we got closer, I realized they were flanking a dark-colored car parked diagonally across the 2-lane highway. 2 orange cones stood beside it, placed with deliberate precision. The whole scene screamed, "Set up." I slowed to a crawl. "What the hell?" I muttered. Marissa stirred. "What's going on?" she mumbled, rubbing her eyes. "There's something in the road," I said, my hands tightening on the steering wheel. As the beams of my headlights swept across the car, 2 figures appeared from behind it, hooded, walking slowly toward us. Male. Young. One of them raised his hand in what might have been a wave or a signal to stop. I rolled down the window about an inch as he approached on my side. He leaned close. I saw the glint of something metal around his neck, a chain, and he smelled like cigarettes and sweat. "You all right, man?" I asked cautiously. "Yeah," he said. "Open the door real quick, need to ask you something." That sentence didn't sit right with me. Something about the way he said it. Too casual, too forced. My pulse started to pick up. I glanced in the side mirror. The other guy was now circling toward the passenger side. "No," I said firmly, rolling the window back up. That's when I saw the guy on my side reach into his hoodie pocket. "Screw this." I slammed the car into reverse and whipped the wheel around. The tires squealed. Marissa shrieked, "Dylan, what are you doing?" "They're not stranded," I said, jerking the car forward again. "It's a setup." I aimed straight for the edge of the makeshift blockade, praying I wouldn't blow a tire. We clipped one cone, one of the red lights exploded under the wheel, and I barely missed their car as I gunned it past. Marissa turned around in her seat. "Who were they? What the hell is happening?" I checked the mirror. No headlights. I exhaled, trying to calm the adrenaline that was surging through my veins. "I don't know," I said, "but we're getting the hell out of here." For about 30 seconds, the road behind us stayed empty. Then, headlights. 1 pair. Closer. Getting closer. "Dylan." Marissa's voice wavered. "Is that them?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. They were speeding up, fast. "Are they chasing us?" Josh's voice, groggy and scared, came from the back. "Everyone stay quiet," I said, my voice low, calm only on the surface. The car behind us started flashing its lights. My foot pressed harder on the gas. I was already doing 80. Then, pop. The car shook. I lost control for a split second, swerving slightly into the rumble strip. "What was that?" Marissa cried. "I don't know. I think they hit a tire." Pop, another one. The steering went soft like the car was dragging something. We weren't going to make it far. Marissa grabbed her phone. "I'm calling 911. "Good," I said, fighting the wheel. "Just stay calm." The kids were crying now. Emma was curled into her booster seat, hands over her ears. Josh was shouting questions I couldn't answer. I kept the car moving despite the drag. Then, bam, the car behind us rammed the back of our SUV, screaming, crying. I felt the weight of my family in every breath I took. My hands were locked onto the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. "Please," Marissa begged into the phone. "Please send help. We're on I-75 South just past exit 93. There are people chasing us. We have kids. They're hitting our car." Another slam from behind. And then, like a goddamn miracle, I saw the red and blue. A police cruiser was flying up from behind. Lights, sirens, the whole thing. The moment the guys behind us saw it, they swerved hard to the right into an exit ramp and disappeared into the dark. The cop followed them without hesitation. I pulled off to the shoulder, heart still hammering. "We're okay," I said, my voice cracking. "We're okay now. We're safe." 15 minutes later, another squad car arrived along with a Toyota tow truck. I spoke to the officers while Marissa held the kids. Both rear tires had been shot, small caliber bullets, probably fired from a silencer, maybe even from inside their car. These guys had done this before, and they weren't alone. Apparently, a similar setup had been reported the previous night. A single woman had encountered the roadblock and managed to reverse out without being pursued. She called it in, but by the time anyone got there, the scene was clean. No car, no cones, no lights. They told us we were the first ones they managed to catch in the act. The guys had run their plates through traffic cams earlier in the evening, waiting for the right kind of target. Late-night drivers with family vehicles. Easy prey. We spent the rest of the night in a Holiday Inn near Valdosta. The Disney plans were postponed by a day. Josh wouldn't sleep unless the lights were on. Emma clung to Marissa the entire night. I couldn't close my eyes for longer than a few minutes without jolting awake at every passing sound. It's been months since it happened, and I still can't drive at night without checking the rearview mirror every few seconds. Not because I think they're coming back, but because I know how easy it is for something like that to happen. One quiet highway, one family trying to save a few bucks, 1 mile too far, and everything can change. I used to think of vacations as the safest form of escape. You save up, plan ahead, choose somewhere sunny, and pretend, for a few precious days, that nothing can go wrong. That illusion shattered the summer I turned 27. Ayan and I had been together for almost 4 years by then. We'd gotten engaged that spring, nothing extravagant, just a simple proposal on a hike, just us in the mountains. We decided we wanted to take one last trip before wedding stress took over, somewhere warm, quiet, away from everything and everyone. Ayan found Isla Perdida by accident. He was scrolling through a travel blog at 2 a.m. and showed me a picture of the island. It didn't even look real. White sand, turquoise water, no resorts in sight. "It's barely touched," he said. "A little island off the coast of Central America, locals, beaches, and not much else." It sounded perfect. We booked a tiny eco-lodge on the east end of the island for 10 days. No AC, no Wi-Fi, just ceiling fans and mosquito nets. We agreed to rent a car from a local named Mateo, who ran a guest house and car service near the airport. The whole thing felt romantic in a rugged, off-the-grid way. The first few days were what you'd expect. We ate coconut curry out of paper bowls, snorkeled in water so clear it looked filtered, and spent lazy evenings with the windows open, listening to geckos clicking in the corners of the room. On the 5th day, we decided to explore the island's lesser-known roads. The lodge owner, a retired Canadian woman named Ruth, mentioned a coastal drive that wrapped around the far west side of the island. "It's a little overgrown but beautiful," she said. "No traffic, just jungle and ocean. Take the road past the old sugar mill. There's a dirt path on the left. Locals call it La Ruta Fantasma, the ghost road. Don't worry, just a nickname. I laughed. Why the ghost name? She just smiled and waved it off. Old island stories. We packed a bag with water, snacks, and sunscreen, then headed out late morning. I wore a loose white sundress and sandals, Ayan in board shorts and a gray tee. It was blazing hot, and the road soon turned to gravel, then dirt. We bumped along between tall sugarcane stalks and drooping mango trees. It felt like we were the only people left in the world. I'm kind of obsessed with this, I said, legs propped on the dashboard. Ayan glanced at me, smiling. I feel like Indiana Jones, only, brown and underpaid. Don't crash, Dr. Jones. We drove like that for almost an hour, stopping now and then to take pictures. Around noon, the air thickened. The sun had climbed directly overhead, and everything seemed to slow down. Even the cicadas felt quieter. The road narrowed, hemmed in by brush and leaning banana trees, when we noticed something strange. At first, I thought it was a rock, just a lump ahead on the right, half buried in weeds. But as we got closer, I saw it was the back of a car, just the rear end sticking out at an angle into the road. A rusty, beat-up old thing, faded blue paint, no plates. The brand was unrecognizable, definitely not local. Is that abandoned? I asked, sitting up straight. Ayan slowed the car. Looks like it. Maybe someone left it? I looked around. There's no one here. No buildings, not even tire tracks. He pulled over a few yards behind it and threw the gear into park. Wait here, he said. Why? Don't be weird. I'm not. I just want to make sure it's empty. Sometimes people sleep in these things. Or worse, someone could be hurt. I didn't love the idea, but I stayed put. He stepped out, shielding his eyes from the sun. I watched as he approached the car slowly, peering through the dusty windows. He circled it, bent down, then suddenly jumped back, almost like he got shocked. That's when I opened my door. Ayan? I called out. Stay there. What? What's wrong? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he crouched again, bracing a hand on the roof for balance, and looked underneath the car. I walked toward him, sandals crunching on gravel. Maya, he said low and sharp, please get back in the car. Now. But I was already next to him, heart pounding. What is it? He looked at me, eyes wide, and said nothing, just pointed under the car. I bent down, and I wish I hadn't. There were two men lying on their stomachs beneath the car, both of them holding long machetes. One had blood smeared across his shirt. Between them was a third man, face down, unmoving. Blood pooled around his torso. His arm was twisted behind his back. Dead. He was definitely dead. I couldn't breathe. The two men under the car looked up at us at the same time, slowly, as if waking from a nap. Their faces were blank. No panic, no fear. Just dull recognition like we were the mailman or someone they expected eventually. Ayan grabbed my arm hard, too hard, and pulled me backward. Get in. Get in the car. Now. I stumbled as he shoved me toward the passenger seat. My brain hadn't caught up. I was still trying to understand what I'd seen. I turned around once as I climbed in, and that's when I saw both men crawl out from under the car, standing tall with blades still in their hands. One of them started walking toward us. Ayan yanked the door shut, turned the ignition, and slammed his foot on the gas. The tires skidded in the dirt, the little Suzuki fishtailing before it found traction. We shot forward, swerving around the blue car, kicking up a storm of dust behind us. Neither of us said a word. The only sound was the rattling of the car, the engine wheezing as Ayan drove like hell down the road. I twisted around to look behind us. No one was following. We drove until we saw a shack with an old Coke sign and a man sitting on the porch. Ayan pulled over, window down, yelling in Spanish that we needed help. The man stood up slowly, walking toward the car, and asked us something in return. I don't speak Spanish well, but I caught enough to understand. What did you see? Ayan told him carefully. The man didn't look surprised, only cautious. He pointed down the road to the east where a small police station sat near the coast. We went straight there. The station had one working fan and two uniformed officers. When we explained what we saw, The younger officer nodded solemnly. The older one exchanged a glance with him, then asked for the location again. Ayan marked it on a paper map using the sugar mill as a reference. They told us to return to our lodge and not go back down that road. They would handle it, that was it. No report, no statements taken, no follow-up. Back at the lodge, we packed our bags that night. Ruth didn't ask why. We must have looked haunted. She just helped us book a ferry off the island for the next morning. We never heard anything again. No news reports, no calls. Not a single update from the police, even when we tried emailing them a week later. The murder, the men, the machetes, none of it ever appeared in the headlines. It was as if it hadn't happened at all. Ayan doesn't talk about it. He threw out the clothes he wore that day and won't even keep pictures from that trip. As for me, I don't feel like the same person anymore. Something changed in me when I saw those eyes under that car. That quiet look of you shouldn't be here. That blood, that dead man between them. We were just tourists, just passing through. But some roads don't forgive trespassers, and some islands don't want to be seen. I was 16 when my view of vacations and people changed forever. It started off like a dream. My grandparents had decided to treat the whole extended family to a 10-day cruise through the Florida Keys and the Bahamas, and it felt like a fantasy. The cruise line was called Ocean Crest, and the ship we were on was the Celestia Dawn. It was one of those giant, glitzy vessels that felt more like a floating city than a boat. 12 decks, 5 pools, a small theater, nightclubs, endless restaurants. There were 13 of us altogether. Me, I'm Isla, my older brother Tyler, 20, my younger brother Dylan, 14, my sister Maya, 18, and her boyfriend Jordan, my mom and dad, my Aunt Claire and Uncle Sean, my 2 cousins Penny and Leo, and of course Grandma Helen and Grandpa Rick. Since the cabins were technically assigned by number of adults, my brother Tyler and I weren't supposed to share a room. But Tyler got his own cabin and claimed our dad was staying in it with him and no one really checked. So I got to stay with him. We figured it was fine as long as we didn't leave obvious evidence, like my makeup bag in plain view. I loved having that space with him. Tyler was my favorite person in the family. Smart, funny, protective without being smothering. He never treated me like a kid. We spent a lot of the first few days together, eating at the buffet, exploring the ship, swimming in the saltwater pools on Deck 10. At night, he'd go out to one of the adult lounges or bars, and I'd usually crash early or hang with Maya and Jordan. But on the 4th night, things changed. Subtly. Quietly. And I didn't notice it until it was too late. Day 4, the man at the wall. It started in the ship's nightclub. Yeah, I know, I wasn't technically allowed in. You had to be 18 to enter, and I was 16. But I looked older for my age, and I had borrowed Penny's cruise ID since she wasn't going out that night. She was 15 but short, and very obviously not me. No one questioned it. Tyler was already in the club when I slipped in through the side. The music was loud, some pop remix thumping over the speakers, and the place was dimly lit with those blue and purple club lights. Tyler waved at me from the bar, drink in hand. I wasn't drinking. I just wanted to dance a bit, soak in the fun. But before I even made it across the room, I felt something off. You know that sensation you get when someone is staring at you? Not glancing, staring. Unbroken and deliberate. That tight pull in your chest that's not fear yet, but discomfort? I turned my head, slowly scanning the room. He was sitting alone by the back wall, thin, pale, with thinning dark hair and a wrinkled linen shirt. He looked like he could have been in his late 40s, maybe older. He had one hand around a drink, the other resting oddly still on his knee. And his eyes were locked on me. I thought maybe I was imagining it. So I moved to the left. His head turned, then to the right. His gaze followed. My skin prickled under the soft lighting. There was nothing casual about it. His expression was blank but focused, like I was something he had picked out from a lineup. I walked over to Tyler, pretending like nothing was wrong. "You good?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yeah, just hot in here," I lied. After about 10 minutes, I leaned in. "Hey, I'm gonna go find Maya and Jordan. I'll see you back in the room?" He nodded. "You sure?" "Yeah," I said. "Text me if you leave early." By the bar, I found Maya and Jordan outside the nightclub at the Martini Bar. They were sipping drinks, laughing at something, legs tangled under the bar stools. I sat beside them acting normal, but my heart was still jittery. I kept scanning the crowd, and then I saw him. The same man from inside the club, now sitting across the bar, alone. Just like before. He didn't even pretend not to be watching me. No drink in hand this time, just those blank, hungry eyes. I gripped my knees, trying to convince myself I was overreacting. "Hey," Maya said, nudging me. "You okay? You look off." "I'm fine. Tired," I said quickly. I didn't tell her. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't want to ruin the night. Maybe I didn't want to sound dramatic. Or maybe, deep down, I didn't think anyone would take it seriously. I left the bar a few minutes later and started back to our room. The hallways of the ship were quiet, lit by soft amber lights. My sandals echoed faintly as I walked, glancing behind me every 10 seconds. No one was there. Not that I could see. The open door. Our room was on deck 7, midship. When I turned the corner toward our cabin, I saw something that made my stomach drop. The door was open, just a crack. The light inside was on. We had locked it. I knew we did. I remember distinctly hearing it latch when Tyler left. I froze. My fingers trembled as I reached for the handle. "Tyler?" I called softly, pushing the door open with one foot. Silence. No movement. The air inside felt wrong, still like it was holding its breath. I walked in slowly. The beds were untouched. My backpack was still on the chair. The bathroom door was half open. I peeked inside. Nothing. I waited a full minute before letting my shoulders drop. Maybe Tyler had forgotten to pull it shut all the way. Maybe housekeeping had stopped in by accident. I changed into shorts and a t-shirt and crawled under the covers. My thoughts kept circling that man's face, his stare. Eventually, I drifted into a shallow, twitchy sleep. I don't know what time it was when I woke up. Everything was dark. The hum of the ship was steady, and the curtains were drawn. But something had brushed my face. Not a bug, not the blanket. A hand. My eyes snapped open. I whispered, "Tyler, stop." Then I saw it. A figure, tall, standing beside my bed. And Tyler's bed was empty. The scream tore out of me before I even fully processed it. "Get out, Tyler!" The figure lunged toward me, maybe trying to cover my mouth, but I was already scrambling back against the wall, shrieking. The door burst open and Tyler came flying in behind him. "What the hey?" he roared. He tackled the man to the floor, punching him, dragging him away from me. I couldn't stop screaming. My throat was raw. I scrambled off the bed and kicked at the man's side, my hands shaking uncontrollably. Within seconds, the hallway erupted with footsteps. My dad was first, then security. People from nearby rooms poked out in confusion. The man didn't fight back. He just kept mumbling something. I'll never forget the look on his face. Dazed. Like he wasn't even fully there. They took him away in handcuffs. I sat in the hallway, wrapped in a blanket, shivering. Tyler stayed by my side the whole time. I couldn't stop crying. Security said he had somehow gotten a spare keycard. They weren't sure how. They suspected he'd been watching passengers and memorizing cabin numbers. He was in one of the lower deck solo cabins, traveling alone. No criminal record, no flagged behavior. They locked him in the ship's holding cell for the rest of the trip and handed him over to authorities when we docked. I never learned his full name. What I do know is that he'd been watching me, tracking me, slipping into our room when he thought I was alone. He had no bag, no tools, just his hands, and intentions I still don't want to imagine. I never finished the cruise. After that night, I refused to stay another hour on that ship. When we docked in Nassau the next morning, my parents got us a flight home. I don't go on cruises anymore. I don't stay in shared hotel rooms. And I don't let fun override my instincts. Because sometimes the scariest places aren't haunted. They're just places where someone is watching you, waiting, and planning. Isla C., survivor of the Celestia Dawn incident, 2023. If you ever feel like someone's watching you, believe yourself. Leave. Tell someone. You're not being dramatic. You're being safe.